computer. Sweet. Okay. Right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Araminta. I run a content marketing agency called Mid Studios, and along with Annie, we manage the Fintech marketing Slack group. And so quite a few people in this event are from there. And today I'm chatting with Holly and Laura from Financielle, a community centered around financial education for women. They have over 40K community members across social, private, blog, and the app. Welcome, Holly and Laura.
Thank you for having us. We're fangirling because we love the Fintech Marketing Hub and all the kind of content that you and Annie put out. So thank you for having us.
I've been spying for
months.
all month. All
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome to have you. I'm really excited because you really started from the ground up, like bootstrapped, started really like organically and naturally. And so just from my own experience chatting to bootstrappers, it's really like we can get into the details and like really discuss kind of how you started. And I find that that's really interesting because you're still like at that stage. So actually, let's just start with that. Where do both of you like come from in terms of background? And why did you start Financielle? What was the kind of idea that sparked the blog and community and all that?
So the first thing to say is we're sisters, which because we're both married, not everyone realizes, and we pretty much don't look like each other, but I think we sound like and we are from the north of England, so we live not far from Manchester. And Financielle started as an anonymous Instagram page in 2018. Mm-hmm. So it was at a time when I personally was on maternity leave, a little bit bored after doing like 80-hour-a-week job, and then it suddenly stops, and then for a while the baby doesn't do anything, I've heard. So you know, to try and fill the time. And I myself had gone on a personal finance journey where, as a graduate lawyer at 21, I had a graduate salary and never had any money left. No one taught me in my life how to manage income expenditure. I opted out of my pension at 22 at a firm full of lawyers who should have told me, hang on a minute, there's something called compound interest. So real lack of basic financial knowledge, when actually I guess I wasn't like an unsophisticated individual. I should have known better. So I did, decided there was a point when I had my little girl quite young, and there's no way I would have been able to afford a house for us. And I thought, hang on a minute, if I can't do it, a lawyer, how is everyone else meant to do it? And so I went on this path, this research path about I'm going to nail how to handle money, and then I'm going to focus on one thing at a time and get good at that one thing. And it kind of snowballed, and I ended up honestly doing really well when it comes to finances through quite limited means as a single parent, on a graduate salary, but in Manchester. So I guess people in the family and friends would see how I was doing and ask questions. And it became, I guess, known as the Laura method. But your eyes would roll sometimes, wouldn't it, Holly?
Like she went deep on some of these methods. Like there was a lot of trial and error, and sometimes like, what the hell is she up to? Like if Laura's got her mindset on something, she will do it 110%. Like I've never seen anyone with such energy. But the only way I can describe it to people is when someone goes on like a health journey, or someone turns to fitness and they look incredible, and you're like, wow, like you look amazing. Like tell me a secret. Like how did you do it? That's the only way I can describe this whole like journey that Laura went on. Everyone just wanted to know the secret. Like what's the secret sauce? How is it that you went from whatever you were doing to like buying a house, having a rental property, like just being in such a strong financial position and being so confident speaking to even like strangers about money? Like we could be in the pub or having drinks somewhere, and Laura would just roll off all this information. I'm looking at thinking, who is this person? But that just shows you like she really went gung-ho on this. So people wanted to know what the secret sauce was.
So years later, that kind of Laura spouting out what she thinks is right about money turned into an Instagram page, and it just grew. And I guess this entire discussions about community, and community starts when people come together around a single meaning and a simple idea. And lots of people, especially women, resonated with this idea that actually focusing on being financially well rather than obsessed with getting rich is attainable for more people. It's like, do you want to go run a marathon or do you want to get fitter? Because we can all get a little bit fitter every day. So it just resonated, especially with busy mums or busy, females juggling different jobs. And this kind of community started to grow around this Instagram page, when actually it literally was anonymous quotes at first, and nothing much more special with that. So that's where it started. When it pivoted to a business, which I guess we can come on to in a little minute, I knew I was obsessed with our customer. I was good at product. I was good at understanding this is the plan that I've curated over 15 years now. How do I commercialize it? And Holly's background in commercial sales and partnerships, I couldn't have had a better business partner. If she was a friend, not a sister, she'd have been the first person that I called to say, can you help me see if do you think this could be a business? What do you think? And yeah, the rest is, I guess, history.
Nice. So I'm actually curious about the Instagram page. When it first started, you did what kind of strategies, or what did you do to spread the word, or did you do anything? Were you just like posting and this is fun, or were you actively like finding partners or promoting the Instagram posts?
So for the first couple of years, it was just my own personal hobby. And they're all still on there. So if anyone fancies a long scroll down to the bottom, it's a bit rough and ready and wouldn't pass design. Canva wasn't around when we first started it, all hail Canva. But it's kind of some just direct quotes would be in an image, and then a blog would be the caption, a spiel that I'd done with one hand while the baby's feeding, or in the middle of the night. And then what I realized about Instagram at that time was this concept of hashtags, which was you can kind of find your people. So if you want to go in on a gym and a health kick, you can find people like you, or aspire to be like certain people if you follow this kind of niche. And so what I realized was people were going onto Instagram and searching hashtag money saving, hashtag budgeting, hashtag personal finance. So if I just I did use a bit of a hashtag strategy, but I was by no means a marketeer. What I knew is, okay, which ones do well and which ones don't. People seem to like this direct, authentic voice. People don't like top tips and I don't know, things that are probably just a bit, they can get anywhere. They were coming to the page for, I call it, like if you're in a nightclub and you're having a chat in the toilets with one of the girls, and she's saying you deserve better than him or her. That's kind of that authentic best friend telling you
that lifting the lid on, like, you felt like the financial space was like broken. Like we've done a podcast like banks are built by men for men, like, and all that kind of like, do you know what's really happening here? I think people really resonated with that, and there was something a little bit different, which is why your page probably grew quite quickly.
And what's quite interesting is that you weren't using like your face, right? It was anonymous completely. And if you listen to like marketing experts nowadays or social media experts, they'll say, be personal, use your face, blah, blah, blah. But you obviously started off with just quotes, and even that took off. So that's really interesting, because you were saying, do you think nowadays in 2022 that would still work, or is that too late now?
I don't think so. I think what we're learning is trends and platforms change all the time. We're having a call this morning with a really good mentor of ours who's an exited founder of a fintech. We were just talking to him about Instagram, and it's just a slow place. It's not as easy to run up 100, 200,000 followers anymore. It was a moment in time. And actually, when I finally put my face on Instagram, because I was so worried, I was actually more worried about people that I knew knowing how I felt, because I leveled it up. I literally was like, no holds barred. I'm going to tell people about what debt means. I'm going to tell people about how buy now, pay later can impact you, and so that you can make a more mindful choice. When I put my face on, it skyrocketed because people knew the person behind the curtain and they trusted what I was saying, and they also could see me living it out. So, the funny moments where for a long time before some of the challenger banks came up with the pots, I was using cash envelopes because I liked to divide up my budget. And it's like ridiculous. Me and Sainsbury's trying to pay with a cash envelope just made people go, well, she's doing it as well. Like, it's not this preaching thing, she's living it out. So I do think that personal brand is incredibly important because it evokes trust and it evokes authenticity. I don't think you could start an Instagram or a TikTok page today with a load of quotes or like, it wasn't just quotes. I think that was a moment in time as well. But it was, positions on things or thought leadership pieces.
And I think, well, the other thing that makes you different is that you're also very focused on a specific niche. So this was my next question, which is there are quite a few personal finance influencers in the space in the UK. I'm part of the UK Money Bloggers Facebook group, and I see that there's a lot of them. But what makes you stand out is that you're focused on women specifically, or I mean, financial education for women. Although I know there's some men in your group too, right? So what would you say is missing from these other communities and blogs? Like, why is there this specific need for women? What is the pain point that women are having when it comes to financial education, and how are you helping meet that with the community?
I think we never set out to be female focused, in all honesty. Like when people ask us like, oh, so you just like woke up one day and were like, we're going to be female focused. It genuinely didn't happen like that. For a long time, the content that Laura produced was very, I don't want to say generic, but in terms of like the type of content and education that was put out there, it was. But after a while, when it started to be more commercialized, we looked at the data and the insights that Instagram specifically, because that was our biggest home and where our biggest audience was. We were looking at who is it that's interested in the type of content and how do we find more of them. And like overwhelmingly at the time, it was about 90% female, 10% male. And none of the content was like directed at females. But I think maybe we did put stuff out there that was like helping fellow females. But as time's grown, we've done more research and we've spoken with more people in the fintech space and wider. And there's just this huge problem when it comes to females and financial wellness, if you like. Women control 85% of the world's spending, and in turn, all the kind of consumer brands out there, everyone's marketeers on this call, so you'll know you want to get as the aim of the game is to get money from people when you're trying to market a product or whatever it might be. And if women control 85% of the world's spending, we're getting targeted the most. So, you buy now, pay laters, car finance, beauty industry, fitness industry, health industry, everything is targeted at females. So
when women have less money to start off with because of the gender pay gap. And so it all kind of fits together like a jigsaw. And so I think, we say we're female focused, we're not female exclusive. We love the men in our community. In fact, they're champions of wanting,
they're amazing,
equal financial situations and positions for everyone. And it's just, we think that people need to know. And when we lift the lid, when we call it out and we use the facts and figures, people go, oh my gosh, actually, yes, you're right. In fact, Holly herself had a real light bulb moment when we were doing a lot of research in the gender investment gap, when she realized that in the 2 years that she spent on 2 different maternity leaves, her husband earned more money just in the paternity leave 8-week period than her entire maternity leave. And in fact, during those 2 years, she also realized pension contributions weren't happening for her, but they were happening for her husband. And it's something that the family don't talk about. Whereas obviously in my position, me and my husband, because it was before I'd started Financielle, had a discussion, and we put money into my pension proactively because I was not being penalized for, having time off. And these like light bulb moments make you go, hang on a minute, think about your customer. What do they know and what position are they in now? But what do they also not know that's really relevant and important to their life at that point?
We get so many DMs from people being like, oh my God, if I'd have only found you like 10 years earlier when I was going through this kind of like financial journey, if you like. So our like community, it spans in terms of like demographic. We've got 20% males on there, so it's now moved to about 80%, even though we then came out as female focused, which is really interesting. You think it'd kind of go, all the males would kind of turn off and say, oh, it's not really for me, but the content is obviously just really interesting. A lot of people do the Financielle playbook, which is our product, as families and couples as well. So we kind of like that aspect. But yeah, we're servicing a market from probably an age of about 18 up to it's growing to about 60 years old. So people are kind of going, I want to reverse all these bad financial habits that I've had, or they're saying, I want to start a financial wellness journey as young as possible, so I'm not doing what the millennials are doing and screwing up the world.
I'm wondering if have you noticed certain triggers, because this is, I've been in the fintech space and the personal finance space for a while, and the main issue I see is that it's hard to get people interested in financial. It seems they have to have something bad happen to them before they're like, ooh, I need to fix my finances, which is a shame, because by then it can be pretty serious, right? We're talking debt or something. So I'm wondering what are the triggers that you've noticed that will get someone to, or a female or male, doesn't matter, to join your community, to use to download the playbook and to read up on all this and download the app? Like what are the most common triggers that you've seen?
So interesting. And we call them our life triggers, which is when you're using the word trigger, I'm like using exactly the right word, because you can split personas in different ways. You can do age demographic, your millennial, your Gen Z, and as marketers, I guess everyone's constantly trying to understand who are your customers and how do you want to speak to them. And we do have multiple personas, but actually we're finding life triggers is a much more accurate persona to describe. So it could vary from and life triggers tend to be not age specific necessarily, but it could be a graduate who's getting their first paycheck and they've never had responsibility for such a big amount of money before, and suddenly they want to make a responsible choice with it, and they're probably struggling. If you're getting a job in the city and you're on an entry level pay, you're trying to make that work. But our more common ones are wanting to buy your first home, being overwhelmed by that, especially with the pay multiples and borrowing multiples at the moment, having a baby and suddenly realizing I've got a bit of headspace actually, but shit's got real. Or it could be divorce and death is quite a big one. So people go through a breakup, a trauma, a reset in how they thought life was going to be, and then it's different. And I think that's where community really comes in, because what they do is they search for help. And so historically it'd be Instagram, social, or someone in their life. And we've had this, referrals are a beautiful form of acquisition for us. When someone says you need Financielle, go check this app out and go see this community. And then you see them helping each other. So someone will post something quite traumatic about, I'm going through divorce and I just don't even know where to start. And 3 people will jump on it and say, I know exactly what you're going through. I've been through the same, or you're okay, you're here with us. So there are these traumatic events. And it is a shame because you don't want people to come when things are a bit too late. We are trying with our content to be a bit lifestyle as well, and a bit more kind of, our big thing is about asking people to take control. And that's a really good challenge to make of someone, even if they're not in crisis. I think Araminta, it's at any point, you can either just be completely passive in your journey when it comes to money and spending, or you can kind of, if you hear people talking about crypto, or if you hear people talking about ETFs, do you want to know a little bit more about it? Because you could, if you wanted to, you could get involved in that. Like this could be you in 10 years time, or carry on as you're doing and don't. And it's kind of a good challenge to people.
You say on your website that you have a KPI, which is to help, to like the number of people helped. So I wonder, what does that mean exactly? Like, imagine someone is going through, I don't know, they're having their baby, and they're like, okay, I need to get my finances together ASAP. How do you know that, they download the app and all that, and they've been helped? What does that look like?
So, I mean, we use our measure for number of people helped, the number of people doing the plan, because we know that's the secret, that's the secret sauce. But there's this ambient benefit of people reading our product, even people using the free app would be able to track the debts, track the goals, manage their life admin, read content that will inspire them. So join the community, supportive space. Yeah. So a little bit like they would possibly count under that. I think the thing with the KPI, which is just ironic, because like you said, how do you measure that? What is the actual metric? It's also this philosophical thing about, if you can help say we help one woman who's just about to have a baby, take control of her money, manage the finances better with their partner if they have one, so that they don't fall out about money and they don't get into financial distress. And also a baby's born into a calm environment and is brought up and where she hears the word, or he budget or investment. And so you help the woman, and then you help her partner, and then you help the child, and then you help the family, because the family sit and watch them and go, hang on a minute, these guys, I did with you, these guys are managing money really well, and they seem financially well, they seem happy, they never complain about money, they're happy to say no if they don't want to eat out, or they're happy to splurge if they want to splurge. And then that helps the community, because if you can help give people their money back and their control, they'll spend it, they'll give it. And so this kind of snowball effect of number of people helped is 2 things. One, it's absolutely the number of people who have done our plan, because if they've done it, we know it's helped. But this wider KPI that actually this butterfly effect of helping one person is absolutely life-changing. And I don't think I could have created or worked for a business that changes lives literally as much as we believe our product does.
Yeah. And you're really relying on these referrals to, like, word of mouth, of course, is like the best probably. So let's talk about like now 2022 Financielle. Walk me through like what does the business look like now? Because I know you've got a blog, an app, Instagram, all that. What are you currently doing like day to day?
That's a very good question. Good question.
So we worked to get the app live. It started off actually. So the plan and the way this business started was an ebook. So when the pandemic hit, the Instagram page was overwhelmed by DMs, like 20 to 30 a day, with people really worried. Because if you remember at the time, people weren't sure what it would mean for their jobs. We were from the travel industry at the time, which was very scary for people. There
was no financial help from the government announced or anything like that.
Pre-furlough, it was all very worrying. And we just got overwhelmed. And so Holly said to me, you have to write this down, like what you know and what you've put on all these blog posts and all these Instagram posts, you need to write it down. And I'd always wanted to write a playbook for my children. I'd always kept panicking about if anything ever happened to me, do they know how to manage money? I want them to be able to follow it really simply. And so she was like, well, this is the time, so write it. So we wrote it and we gave it away. People don't do it when you give it away because there's so much helpful free content that there's this kind of, you've got to have a bit of skin in the game. So we sold it for £50 book, and we sold 500-600 over the course of a year. To be fair, it wasn't all at once, and we knew it was working
via the Instagram, right?
Completely via Instagram.
Only Instagram. Okay. Yeah.
Only Instagram.
No website.
Page, no website.
Wow.
We both do the website, but we wouldn't have known how to get people to the website. To be
sure. Lucky it was up and running.
Yeah, we're lucky you could even buy an ebook. And so also we produced a spreadsheet that went with it if you wanted to buy that as well, which is, I guess, a little upsell, which we hadn't realized was an upsell, to help people then track working the plan. So it's budgeting in a particular way. And it's also tracking net worth, which is something that helps show your long-term progress. If you're doing the plan, your net worth should be going up. So earlier this year, like Holly and I sat down and I was like, this needs to be an app or a platform. Actually, I said it could have been web-based, it could have been an app, but it was 2D. I wanted to see the data. I wanted to see people's debt going down and assets going up, which is what we can see. Holly had this vision that she wanted to be in like their pockets. We could trigger them with a little notification with a nice blog. We could have a community event that was easy to access. So we just spec'd a very basic app. I knew it was very basic because it was data entry and it was education. So it wasn't APIing in 12 different banking sources or what have you. And we used all profits from the business to build it. It launched in October, what we would call a soft launch because it was just to our Instagram page and community. Nothing much more sophisticated than that. And it was amazing, and it's live and it's out there. So at the moment, the business model is it's a freemium model. So it's a free app with a premium upgrade, and we still continue to generate revenue from financial partners via the app and or via the Instagram page. And actually this, I don't know if I should say because I don't know if it's a secret, but this month we've got a couple of businesses taking it.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Big businesses, really impressive brands that when we're ready to share, we're excited to, because they're just amazing, that are going to take it for their employees because they want to help their employees with financial wellness. So
yeah, I saw that actually, Financielle for business, and it just appeared like recently. I was gonna ask you about that because I was like,
eagle eye.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's something that we've toyed with for a while, and when we were speaking to someone from this particular business, not even about employees, she was like, I love this and our people need it. We were describing, you know, the type of customer that we've got and their needs and the life triggers that they come to us with, and, you know, our concern around this Gen Z generation of people that are more talking about trading than they are like having a pension. Like it's just a bit of a interesting place in time. And she was like, we need this for our people, so can you just go and do it? And it never kind of was like up there on the top of the list, but more and more we're seeing that could be a really good way of our KPI to help more people. Because if you're going to get one customer that takes, you know, 1,000 app subscriptions over us plowing money into paid ads, of which everyone knows like is hit and miss sometimes, and trickling through a couple of hundred downloads within like a 3-month period, it's kind of a no-brainer to hit that KPI of number of people helped.
Wow, amazing. Well, I look forward to hearing how it goes. It sounds really, really cool. And how, I'm just curious, like, did you build the app yourself? Did you use a no-code builder? Did you hire someone? How did you do that?
So what I'm really passionate about is demystifying tech to people, because there's so much clever tech out there. It really can be overwhelming. I really tried to do a no code option at first, but because of the way I had built the budget, I build the budget a bit like a P&L.
Sure.
And I kept struggling. I tried on a couple. It was taking me an awful lot of time to do. And when we were costing up even getting someone to help with a no code just to speed it up, it still wasn't doing it exactly as we wanted it. We felt we'd had our proof of concept with the PDF, an Excel spreadsheet. So I do think that before people plow money into building tech, have a proof of concept and test it out first. So I was confident that it wasn't going to be really expensive. But we did a big exercise looking for some developers via Upwork, and we found a small company that we spec'd it very specifically. We did that work. We were very specific about what was needed, when, where. I knew it was quite simple tech because, like I said, it's self-standing on its own. So we outsourced it, but we project managed it. We tested it, didn't we? Doing the different bugs. She's iOS and I'm Android. So.
Amazing. Well, that's great. That's you properly did the research and really bootstrapped it from the bottom up. And you probably know a lot about apps now and the dev tools and all the technology behind it. So
you just wear a hoodie and then suddenly
everything makes sense.
Next time you wear a hoodie and you go to Silicon Valley and ask for 30 million to build it, and then you'll be fine.
And I mean, this is why I was looking forward to chatting with you, because you're like the opposite. I mean, in the sense that you're really ground up. And I'm worried about the fintech space. I don't know if anyone else on this call is, but there's these huge valuations and they're raising so much money, and it's just an app, and you're like, how? To be fair, it's mostly happening in the US, but so this is why this is so interesting, because you really tested every single step of the way, and you actually provided you met a demand. Right, there was actual demand before even launching the product, which is why there is you're having success right now. So it's really exciting to see. And I'm so what in terms of marketing, nowadays, 2022, once again, how are you promoting the product? Are you promoting the product? Are you just sticking to Instagram, or are you thinking of branching out? And yeah. What are you,
so one thing that we really are going to be putting effort in is content. And when I say content, we mean different mediums. Yeah. So video, we like TikTok. We just love how unpolished it is. We're not flying on there. We're doing okay. What I love about TikTok is we can drop onto people's For You pages. I think the last analytics I looked at, 70% of our content goes to people that don't follow us. And I love that, because you just might drop something into someone that impacts them. And also written form. So we've got a content writer that helps us, just so that we're not just writing. And so we're going to be using that to kind of spread the word. We're really pro personal brand. And so we're quite active on LinkedIn, both of us. We love doing events, especially in our local community at the moment in Manchester, because the fintech space is getting bigger. And we like also being a face of non-tech females leading a tech brand, as you quite rightly said. And so that's the one side. The other side is we are going to be looking at some PR, especially with this financial wellness angle. So we get asked a lot of times to do stuff in lifestyle magazines. In fact, just before I jumped on this call, I was answering some great questions for the Evening Standard about, our tips for 2022. So I guess a little bit of a mixture. Instagram will always be our home, but we've decided not to be a slave to it, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we discussed that on one of the calls. I think it was Eric that kind of was saying, you don't want to give I think someone asked, how do you split your time? Obviously there's just two of us, and we do get a little bit of help, but I'm talking 3 blogs in a month, not anything outrageous. And we're just going to be smarter, I think, in terms of how we build our content and how we distribute it. We want an omnichannel presence. We want to be on LinkedIn for a personal brand, but also from our B2B, because that's going to be really, we know that's going to be the strongest platform in terms of leads and engagement. And then Instagram, like Laura said, is our home, but it's very slow at the moment. It's hard to cut through the noise. It could end up being very expensive and a drain on our time for not much return. Facebook is an interesting one. I don't know how everyone feels about Facebook at the moment. It's a bit of a there's our place to be, but we are experimenting with paid ads. Everything that we've done up to now has been organic. We've never paid for a piece of promotion. So whether that's the cause of everything slowing down a little bit and we have to put our money where our mouth is, it's going to be really interesting. We're in a very much test phase in January this year.
One thing that we're certainly going to be exploring as the platform grows is referral. So even if it's a non-paid referral, actually giving our community members the prompt to say, do you know anyone that would benefit from this? So some really simple, plugins and tools we will be able to use, whether it's even simply just prompting people on email and asking them to share, because there's so much potential from someone helping their friend, quite frankly, because it could be an accountability partner. So I love the idea that people would share that they're doing this with others in their lives, because people should be more transparent about money. But community, if we believe the community are finding value from our product, they will absolutely refer it. We come from a referrals-based business before we started this business, where they didn't spend a penny on marketing. It was all based on word of mouth and getting people to refer you. Now, it's a bit easier in a service-based business than it is in a product. And it's hard to compete in, the fintech space, where the cost of acquisition is so high that when you are competing with these invested brands, these finance brands, they'll offer, between £10 and £100, I suspect, customer acquisition to their customers. Refer a friend and both get £50 in your pot. I mean, we can't compete with that. We're a bootstrap startup, so we have to be a bit more clever. And if it means we grow a little bit more slowly, that's kind of okay, I think.
Nice. And my last question on this topic before we head to like AMA is, like, what does the process look like for content? Because obviously I guess I'm asking specifically for Instagram, because you've been doing this for so long and you've obviously done, you're doing really well at it. Well, like from idea to create to production or to publication, what does that look like? How do you even come up with ideas? Are you just brainstorming or?
So yeah, I think there's a little bit of structure, because the playbook is split into three parts: survive, build, and grow. And they each reflect a different part of someone's money journey. So survive is about taking control. We talk about mental health, we talk about budgeting, we talk about debt and what you can do to get out of it. Build is much more about building on that. So building some really basic foundations. So do you want to buy a home? Do you want to get a really good emergency fund that makes you feel better? Do you want to start building these like pots of money for your goals? And then the third one is grow, which is invest in things that grow in value. And that could be you, but it could be cryptocurrency, it could be the market, it could be pensions, and kind of it's all so
more aspirational.
So Holly finds that really helpful, I think, to then go, right, okay, sometimes we do full weeks where we focus on a particular part of the playbook. And even if it's not as obvious to the Instagram follower, we have strategized and gone, we'll focus on basics this week. And so once in a while, we might then throw in a different theme, like we've done greenwashing before and about shopping sustainably, because, voting with your money is quite a powerful thing. We've done about ethical investing, which was very topical. But we kind of have this, we use survive, build, and grow as a content plan. And so many ideas then come off that one core
really cool.
thing.
Definitely.
And then Holly will throw a good meme in there once in a while. Like she'll just laugh at herself.
I spend far too long laughing at my own memes, which is really embarrassing, but the funniest part of the job. But I think we grow followers that way, and people resonate with stuff. They're like, oh my God, like I'm dying. There was one the other day about influencers and mean girls and that type of thing. But
Gemma Collins ones
always do really well. I'm not sure why.
So
amazing.
We do take I think a lot of influencers talk about content planning all the time. But for me and Laura, like, campaign led is always the way forward, and that way we can commercialize it as well, like in the nicest way possible. We have to put food on the table for our children, so we have to commercialize it, and also we only pick products that like our community will benefit from. So one big thing we're passionate about is making sure that females have got a pension, especially people that are like stay-at-home parents or work part-time, where they feel like they don't bring enough money in to warrant having a pension. But what are you going to do when you're retired and you've relied on your husband's pension? And unfortunately, we see so many people come through that are unfortunately divorced. We have to make sure we're providing really good content. So we've worked with some amazing brands like Pension Bee, where we've said like we're going to do a legacy week, or we're going to do, nice. We've seen it and we make it into a campaign. So it really is like a well-oiled machine, really, even though sometimes it feels a bit scatty. Actually, we are quite strategic in our content.
And then we think we don't charge enough, because actually
we work really hard.
We do. Like, it's not a one-off post. I think a lot of maybe brands on the call and listening back later may resonate with, just an influencer post, and it just doesn't work like that. It's much better to have a well thought out campaign that can be repurposed, that can be come back to, and that tells a story as the week goes on. And so we definitely probably deliver too much value for the money we charge.
Well, I think we are that omni-channel presence, and I always say that with partners. We don't just say, it's hard. Are we an influencer? Are we a brand? We've probably transitioned from influencer to brand. That's like a bit of a difficult journey to take, because unfortunately some influencers have a bad reputation of, if a brand comes to them, I want to do a campaign with you, and they're like, yeah, okay, one post is like £1,500 or something. That's probably quite cheap at the moment, and that's it, and it just drops off a cliff. Whereas like Laura says, we'll probably do a bit too much, in that we'll then post it to our community, and then we'll do a reel on it, and we'll put it on TikTok. Like there's no point doing something half-hearted. It's not going to get anyone the results.
I really like this idea of doing it per week, on a week basis, and looking at it as campaigns. How many times do you post per day currently? Is it, or per week? Do you post once per day?
So it varies. I think in campaign week, we'll probably do about 3 posts a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
To Instagram.
That's intense. Yeah.
And we'll vary the type of content. So one will be a video, one will be like a carousel that's quite informative, education heavy, that someone can save and then share, which helps with the algorithm and helps someone. And then the third might be like a funny meme, just to get people's attention if they're just kind of like scrolling through. So, and then we'll tend to do live events as well. That'll be interceded throughout the week. And then we'll do private community events too. So it's a lot.
One as big as that, I remember, will probably be once a month. So 1 week per month is probably quite intense. Sometimes we do stupid things, like we had a financial wellness festival, and it was all November, and it was what we're doing today. But but everything's a campaign. But if it's a sponsored campaign, we'll go all in. If it's one of our campaigns, it may not look like one to everyone else, but to us it'll probably be one a day. We've probably dropped off a little bit again, because we're trying to do wider platforms, but generally once a day we find working well.
It's interesting what you say about memes, because I've also noticed this, like the fintech brands that seem to succeed in social media. Like I'm thinking of a couple in Twitter, Instagram, not sure about Facebook, maybe Facebook also, LinkedIn obviously completely different. They seem to post a lot of memes, and people love that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that memes by the definition of that word, meme is like something that can communicate, that is easy to communicate, that spreads really quickly, right? That's a meme. Yeah. So it's really interesting. Like I maybe want to do a podcast only on memes, like, because it feels like there's a lot of potential there, and it's just a really good way of spreading the word. So it's really interesting to hear that you've seen a lot of success.
You should. Memes are accessible, so they're quick, they're accessible, they're understood.
People share with friends as well, like they tag people. We seem to get a lot of people tagging people to be memes. Like, this is you, like, to their friends. So that kind of like virality, it makes sense. People are like, oh my god, this is so you, and they tag like 3 friends, and then that person then might follow you, so that it does generate a bit of virality.
The best social team I probably like is Monzo, because the way they use data and accurate data to, and it's not quite a meme, but it is, because it's very simple. It's very like the one they did with the World Cup, when it was like, oh look, everyone went to King George pubs. I don't know what it was. It was really funny. It was like spending beer went up high. I loved, we're Northern, so to hear the Greggs versus Pret debate, I think they talked about everyone in the South buys. I think Greggs outspends Pret everywhere apart from in the city of London.
Yeah, I heard.
I saw that one. Do that. I would love to think that we could get to a point where we can use the data on our platform to give a community view on how people are doing, and try and make it a bit funny, spot when people are a bit weak, or when payday is, and what are people's activities like. I don't know, but Monzo, they're up there for me.
I'm thinking also of Curve on Twitter. Like I'm not really someone of like a social media person, but I don't know, they crack me up. Like on Twitter, I'm just like, this is amazing but my main problem with this is it's so hard. It is so hard to make memes. I've tried, and I'm so bad. I'm terrible. I'm not funny either. And also I can never find the image that I want. How do you search up the guy with weird face on Google? Like, how do you even find the memes? I don't.
Oh god, the Google searches. My husband's like, what are you doing up there? And I'm like, oh, you have to Google the most random things. But I find celebrities the easiest thing. So and obviously females for us is a big part of it. So you're obvious Kim Kardashian, I don't know, like Nicki Minaj, Gemma Collins for British humor. If you're thinking of a money problem, I will think of like a Keeping Up with the Kardashians episode, or a Love Island episode or whatever. And sometimes you have to be on the trends as well. So like when Love Island was going crazy, I didn't watch it this year, so I was like, I don't understand all these memes
Squid Game.
So one of Holly's specialisms was Married at First Sight Australia,
which
is quite a niche thing that if you haven't watched it, you're thinking, what the hell? But if you watched it, go back through our feed, every meme was just perfect, and it just blew up our page because our demographic was sat watching Married at First Sight Australia, and
that's hilarious.
It was perfect. In fact, I just think
I think memes have to be timely as well.
Yeah, that's really okay. Interesting. So in terms of memes, look for celebrity faces and keep on trends and just use your creativity, use your imagination.
And repurpose as well. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Like, I've spent ages trying to make one, and I'm like, I found it. Like, literally hashtag and then credit that person. Like, there's no one big thing about content as well is not reinventing the wheel. We'll go back and look at our insights and see our top performing meme, post, carousel video, and we'll just repost it. We have new followers all the time that might not have seen that content.
Awesome. So let's move on to like some general audience questions. So I have a couple here that were asked in our Slack group, and then we'll also open the floor if anyone else here wants to ask some questions. But there was one that was really interesting, which is, what difference do you make between building an audience and building a community? Because it does seem that community is like a term that is used a lot, especially in fintech. So what would you say is the difference, audience and community, and which one, how are you trying to determine that when it comes to Financielle?
So good, community is the favorite buzzword in any tech business, not even fintech. And we've spoken to so many people that, build a product and then go, we'll just get a community manager and we'll build a community. And we're thinking,
it's a forum.
It's
just a forum.
Yeah, and if you think it's easy to build one, then you're mistaken. We're very proud of our community, and they've kind of built themselves. But I think the difference between an audience and a community is collaboration and contribution. So we do get user-generated content in this world today, and that can come from an audience and not necessarily a community. And a community is whatever you make it, but we benefit from two things. One, in our community space, whether that's Instagram actually in the comment section or whether it's in our private community, it's self-sustaining. So because they're centered around a central objective and they're passionate about Financielle, what we stand for, their money journey, they just self-organize. And so it's very impressive to see people helping each other, and it doesn't take you to help. And I think an audience is a one-to-one relationship or a one-to-many, not a many-to-many. And it's this network effect of community that really helps it to take a life of its own. What we then use that for is research, because we can sit and watch. We are watching everything. And we can see how people react to certain topics. We can spot needs, and that's what proper content creation is. It's, what does someone need right now? And sometimes it's not the thing that you decide that morning or that you expect. And so then I think the other thing is, we want our product, which is the platform where we put our content and we've got our helpful tools, to be decided by the community. A little bit how, Monzo, we talked about that earlier, a Monzo community member came up with the idea of pots. So we have a user, not some guy in the tech team at Monzo to think,
we should build this.
Wouldn't it be good if? So actually we can use it to identify content trends and product trends. And I don't think you get that as much in an audience scenario, because it tends to be one way. It's not very reciprocal, whereas we kind of encourage and motivate people to get together. And one of the greatest stories we've had in our community was during the lockdown. One of our members was followers was a beauty business owner, had her business shut down, and actually had one of her best personal finance years, because she had the headspace to kind of go, hang on a minute, like, let me pull back my spending, let me sort out what I want in life, what house do I want, what this. And another community member gave her a job during the pandemic, so she got a part-time job, I think, in a chemist.
And we've had IVF babies born out of the community as well. So like all those kind of stories, I think people are much more free with their information and personal stories when they're in what they deem to be a safe space, not an audience member that can be seen by thousands of people, but a group of people that have come from Instagram. They're obviously quite passionate about a subject. We've put some friction in place to make sure that those people in our community genuinely really want to be there, and we give them value. I think we give them so much more content, we give them private events, we just give them a little bit more TLC. And then like sometimes my job's redundant because I'm technically community manager, and they'll kind of like answer each other's questions before I can even get to it. Someone will be like, what does someone think about this? And I'll go to answer, and another community member will have answered before I can. So I'm kind of made redundant from that role. But I think that's like a good, like that shows barometer. You a good a good barometer of an engaged community.
I think you mentioned something really key, which is it's just great for customer research.
Yeah,
like hands down. And I mean, even I am experiencing this, you know, I'm with the Fintech marketing Slack group, and seeing everyone asking each other questions is really interesting, because I'm like, wow, marketers. So we did a survey, and we realized that Fintech marketers have three main problems, which is messaging and positioning, hiring. Yeah. And the first one was actually I forgot, I can't remember, I have to check it. But yeah, we just from like chatting and seeing that, and then seeing people ask questions, it's very useful. And then and I think it just puts you a lot closer to the customer, and it helps you build a better product. So I think that's like the most useful thing. And with an audience, maybe you don't have that. Well, that's what you're saying, right?
I just don't think they give information as freely, maybe. But like when you join our community, we ask you what's your number one financial goal. So we know we've got an aggregated score of, we know the top 4 things that people come to our community for. So every week we have to make sure that some of our content lends itself to why the community exists and what they need help with. So I think if you're not asking the community what they need, but sometimes you don't want it to be a chore for them either. Like you're just using them for research. It has to be like a two-way street where you're giving value and then you're getting it back. Whereas I think some fintechs are guilty of creating forums where they just ask like features. Questions on features. What do you think about this feature? Do you like this feature? Should we add another feature? And I'm seeing it and I'm going, this is not. And they say, you've got an amazing community. I'm like, no, you've just got like a test bed for features.
Well, that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I've seen that too. You wouldn't call that community, right? That is just like a customer research forum. So imagine we're a fintech that has that kind of like low level community basically, or forum. What would you say they need to be doing? I mean, add value, sure, but like, what does that actually mean? What would you tell them in order to build a genuine community?
So I think a big thing for me, and it's not an egotistical point, but you have to create fans. You have to create people that, I think, must be really hard in different industries, or even in a product, like in a B2B fintech product. I can imagine this is not a discussion we're having. We're talking about B2C, but you have to create value for them. And so, I mean, giffgaff is a great example of community building, which was very much linked to features. But what they kind of did was, instead of it being all one way, it was very much like, how would you run the business if you're CEO for the day? Cool. And there was one point where apparently the community members were like, they got benefits for helping other community members, and so they didn't have a help desk team. giffgaff, and I don't think they do. There's no support desk. You don't ring, you go to a forum, and giffgaff users like help each other, and they get rewarded with these like super sims and little bits of benefits, or some like outfits, I think, just some merchandise. But people, if they become passionate about a brand and what they stand for, they're willing to help. And so for those brands that just have this kind of like this feedback scenario, it's not saying actually what would be helpful. Like some people just like a bit of recognition, and some people like a platform, and other people like the idea that they're helping to shape the vision for the company. It becomes much more like a cooperative. That's proper community, not what features would be helpful, because ultimately if we build features you like, we'll make more money. It's not easy though. So it's very easy. I don't want to just make it look like they're doing something wrong. It's just, you know, you have to. And the other thing, because a wonderful thing about community, like you said, isn't just if you ask people what they want. It's the Henry Ford example. They'll just say a faster horse, when actually watching people and listening to them and seeing what they're trying to do, and getting some really good engineers and voyeurs in your business to watch that, they can come up with solutions to problems that the customer doesn't even know they've got, just by watching human behavior. It's fascinating. If you like people watching, get involved in a community.
Oh man, yes. Or marketing in general, I would say. I mean, I'm reading the Mum Test by
yes, I've seen
Fitzpatrick. Yeah, because I was recommended to it by Thomas, who was on our podcast, and he says you should never ask people what they might do in the future, because they'll lie to you. They'll tell you what you want to hear. Instead, you should ask them what they're doing every day, like what are their habits. And it's true, community kind of like is like that window into the everyday, and there's some fantastic tips in there in general, and it's really opening my eyes to like the power of customer research, or how to do it properly, because it's true that also another one is like never mention your product when you're asking questions. You want to ask them what they're currently doing, and then, because if you mention the product, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'll definitely buy your product, but you just never mention that you have a product. So yeah, anyway,
never interview them yourself. Like I think when we're going to do more in-depth like app research, it won't be us asking the questions, because we know that our community will just want to make us happy and say what they think we want to hear. That's not going to give us an accurate result of how people use our product.
And the real key, like some really good for those people listening, a really good theory is the jobs to be done theory. And there's some really good I think there's a Harvard or something video on YouTube that explain it, and it's talking about, you know, if your product was going to be hired to do a job for your customer, what job do they need it to do? And you get a lot closer to actually what the customer needs, rather than asking what the customer wants, or you thinking this is a good idea, let's see if they like it. So it's very interesting, and it's very, very difficult to do well. We feel community spying, I'm not going to call it spying, but having a community and being able to watch and listen is a cheat's guide to really understanding your customer. And ultimately, like, you know, revenue comes when you look after customer. We ultimately believe that sometimes we've not got a great revenue plan in place. Sometimes, you know, it's a bit further in the future, but when you see the magic happening, when you see like light bulb moments happen, you go, right, okay, we're just on the right track, keep going.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why I was asking you about triggers. Actually, triggers are essentially jobs to be done, right? Or pain points, which is basically the same problem. So yeah, super interesting, super amazing that you're so deep into like marketing theory and and like
development.
Yeah, exactly.
We're trying to be everything, so we
of course,
learn a bit
exactly.
of everything.
I have one more question. I was wondering if Annie would want to turn her video on, and actually on the topic of revenue, it was a really interesting question. So I don't know if Annie is here and she can. Do you want to read your question out? Do you have it in front of you? If not, I can read it if you want.
No, I don't have it, but it was about how you actually, I mean, you touched on some of the points already while discussing about your business model, but my question was mainly about how you are currently looking at scaling the business and monetizing it, because you mentioned the freemium model that you're taking. And it'll be interesting because, you know, we've seen so many examples in the past, you know, like brilliant, you know, freemium business models. For example, one that pops into my mind is Finimize. And they also tried to do this investment app, which failed. And they remained just like an information. They were bought by, I think, Aberdeen and now.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's my, you know, my main question, because there's brilliant community-based, you know, businesses and, you know, organizations out there, which at some point are struggling to convert into viable, you know, real businesses. So how are you looking at, you know, tackling this?
It's such a good question, Annie. And it's really, really difficult, especially when you come from, you know, a product-based industry or service-based industry where it's very clear what the product is, and then you build margin on top of that, and that's kind of how you build your revenue through basic products and service sales. And so for a long time we've wrestled with what the revenue model would be. For now, it's from 3 sources, and we're generating revenue on these bases, and our plan is to try and scale that. So it's B2C subscription revenue. It's only small because our price is small. It's quite high margin because the tech's quite simple and we've got a low cost base, but you know, unless we put a lot of money into B2C acquisition, which at the moment we don't intend to do because we just don't think it's a good use of our time and money, we will still continue to get recurring revenue from B2C. We then get, if you think about the lifetime value of the customer, as the customer's on their customer journey with us, we will, we have some partnerships with some financial service brands, like PensionBee's, for example, one of them, a couple of others, and InsurTech, and possibly a couple more in the future, where we'll benefit from handing a customer over when they're at the right time in that journey. So if they're in the build stage and they're saving for a home, we know that these people are saving for a home, and actually we could get you a really good deal, or this is a really good brand that aligns with us when it comes to product. And then the partnerships, whether it's referral or introducer, or whether it's campaigns,
brand awareness
off app and on app, is another revenue stream. Again, even if we do really well with that, it's not a revenue stream that will build a very big business, and we do have a vision of our business being very big. So the third is then B2B, so a little bit like the Headspace model. ours is a financial wellness product. It gives people really good education, really good content on how to manage their money. Headspace is a B2C product that actually the offer is employer benefits. And we just know that if we pick the right brands and if it works for their employee, as it does for our current community because it's already working, then we'll be able to get revenue in bulk upfront for the year. So it'd be really good on a cash flow basis, and the margin would be really strong. And so this is a great test time for us, Annie. We're going to be testing out these 3 core streams. And we certainly see ourselves as a bit like a Finimize because we're proud of our content and we're proud of the way we're building community. And they're of value to Aberdeen, hence the acquisition. Obviously, I wonder if one day they thought, would people pay past a paywall? Because, but they did. For us, the proof will be in the pudding. But yeah, we're not open to test. We're not afraid of testing. We're not open to changing, are we?
Yeah. Try anything.
That's great. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, it's really interesting topic. So if no one else has any questions, feel free to post in the chat. But I have one final question for you, which is, what does the future look like for Financielle? Like, where would you like to see it in 5 years? How is this community going to grow? How are you thinking of taking it to the next level, if you want to?
Well, we do. So, we want to get our product, whether that's app or whatever product ends up being, into the hands of millions of people, because we just know it works. Teaching people how to handle money in a way that at the very beginning of the story that I told, no one taught us how to do it. And so we can teach people from the beginning or on their journey to take control of their money, then that, revenue and success will come from that. But that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to help the maximum people possible. So if you think about on that basis, we want to be the leading financial wellness brands in the world. And we think other people are claiming that title right now, and won't name names, but they're not financial wellness.
Why not? Can you mention? I mean, maybe I can mention. I don't know, like Starling, like Monzo, Starling.
They're okay. They're financial products, but then they stay away from education. I think this is a real.
Oh, you mean education?
This is a real problem with FCA is the line between product provision and education. And so we still stay well on the side of education. But buy now, pay later. We want to be the antidote to that. We want to show people that is not conducive to a positive financial well-being, and that it's literally designed to make you part with money. Now, people in your community will work for those brands, and so ours is about awareness and not about being difficult for them. Others, pay advance schemes, so companies that say they help with employee financial well-being but actually offer a service which people get in their wage earlier. They're financial wellness, and we just keep going, hang on a minute
It's called wellness washing. Like, green, how it's greenwashing. Everyone's like, I'll plant a tree if you buy if you take my credit card and you spend £500 on it, Visa will plant like 500 trees. And it's like, okay, that's greenwashing. Like, that's not what this is about. This concept of wellness washing is becoming a bit more paramount. You'll see a lot of big banks, legacy banks as well, having like
a random page,
financial wellness page. But on the next one, it's like, take out this loan with us at like 18% APR. And you're just like, you're all missing the point. So we hope we're the antidote to kind of that,
and we think it's got a space in the majority of geographic regions. I think we'd love to go with Europe next. I mean, our product really works for a society that struggles with debt, and not many European nations do, because
they're very anti-debt.
Exactly. So in a way,
US
US and Australia are kind of the more obvious choices. But when we have the female focus, actually females in lots of European destinations have different issues. So for example, my understanding from some of our advisors that have talked about the French market is women struggle to invest, like the good savers, but the confidence to invest and grow their assets is something that they struggle with. Also having control over their money and it not being reliant on someone else. So the female angle this is all about taking control, which I said at the beginning. It's about taking control of your money and deciding where it goes. And if we can empower people, and it might mean different things in different jurisdictions to take control, then we're going to help a lot of people, and it's going to be a valuable product to people, which is kind of, I guess where we started. So yeah, we want to be known as a financial wellness brand that genuinely is trying to change habits and help people take control, and especially help a hell of a lot of females on the way.
That's so exciting. Well, I'm looking forward, like in 5 years, to see you playing among the big apps and the big fintechs, and I can be like, yep, I talk to these two, I know them.
You'll be interviewing us on stage of like,
yes, exactly. We'll have fintech marketing Slack group meetup, and you'll be able to chat. But yeah, it's super exciting. I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I think the part that I love the most is because you're bootstrapped, there is no hiding, like there's no waste. Everything is really careful, everything, you really care. And so it's really exciting to see like how you're putting so much energy into the right things. And I'm looking forward to see how your journey goes on. So big congrats. And
you can have us back on. We'll book
sure.
We book in again in a year.
In a year, and we can just do checkups. Yeah, why not?
Well, 100%. Well, you have to get Mr. Chipman back because
Alex, you're right.
Holly wants an Alex follow-up. But we'll definitely.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
Thank you for letting us share our story. You know, we want to make what we're doing accessible, and to, you know, if someone has an idea and wants to go at tech, you don't have to build, you know, the next Tesla technology. You can come up with a really simple need and a simple product and just test it out. And Instagram is a testing space. You can ask a question on a story and get people to answer it. That's user research. You don't need, you know, to go fancy.
You don't need 400 million in VC funding either.
So true. Exactly.
Really
say it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
From the rooftops.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thanks so much, Holly and Laura, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And once again, I look forward to seeing how you get on, and wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Very inspiring. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, Annie. Bye.